In Thomas Nagel's book, The View from Nowhere, and I think in some of his earlier essays, he talks about objectivity, particularly scientific objectivity. And it's a kind of critique, I guess, but or at least an analysis of what we mean when we talk about scientific objectivity. And the title that he uses there, The View from Nowhere, is really significant in terms of what he's doing there. Because I think what he's doing is he's pointing out kind of anomalies in the metaphors that we use to describe certain knowledge forms, certain aspirations to knowledge, and then suggesting how we try to solve those problems. There's still paradoxes in our solutions, which he points out to, and this idea of the view from nowhere is the indicator of that. What he's basically saying, or at least what I'm taking from what he's saying, is that when we make the strongest kinds of knowledge claims that we make tend to rely on visual metaphors, and we do that because our visual system is the dominant one in terms of our understanding. Between 30 and 40% of the processing power of the human brain apparently is given over to the processing of visual information. Well, that's the same with blind people also, isn't it? It isn't just about what comes into the eye. The actual processing itself is that kind of processing. And given that amount of processing power, that's the power that we mobilize when we try to make the most powerful claims about knowledge. We tend to use visual metaphors. And so we say, I see what you mean, when we want to really maintain clarity of understanding, or suggest that we genuinely understand. If we want to back off from that little bit, we might say, I hear what you're saying, which doesn't confer quite the same level of shared knowledge. So visual metaphors tend to be deployed for strong claims for knowledge. The difficulty with visual metaphors is that vision also comes with other entailments, as well as its enormous processing power. And the evidence of our eyes, really, if we look around, the density of information that's presented from one moment to the next is just mind-boggling, really. I'm standing in this field and I can see probably 50 trees around me. The number of leaves I can see on those trees, the movements I can see between the leaves and those trees. The fact that I can identify visually these trees as wholes, as gestalts, but I can also identify branches and leaves and so on. I mean, it's just mind-numbing, really, the complexity of the information. So it's not surprising that we draw upon visual metaphors for complex knowledge or for robust knowledge. But as I said, there are entailments of visual information which could be problematic. And the most important one is that vision is viewpointed. Whenever I'm looking, I'm seeing things from where I am. I can move around things, I can see things from many different sides. I can stand next to you so I can see more or less what you're seeing. I can make these kind of moves to account to change that viewpoint or to add to that viewpoint. But ultimately, my vision is situated. And so, when deployed as a metaphor, there's a temptation to assume that all knowledge is situated, which is fine, because certainly there is, a place for situated knowledge in the world. But if we want to make robust claims for knowledge, we don't want to say it's situated. We want to say it's general. We want to say things like, wherever you stand, this knowledge will stay the same. The boiling point of water at sea level. We want to make claims about that. The force of the speed of acceleration of an object due to gravity. We want to make claims about that. We don't want it to be the view from where I am. We want it to be general, universal, if you like. So how do we get around that? How do we stay within the visual metaphor, or so it's such that we can use its explanatory power, but not lock ourselves into situatedness? And Nagel says that what we do there is a kind of linguistic trick, cognitive trick, in which we suppress that particular entailment of visuality, the situatedness of it, and still we still sort of use it as if we have a viewpoint, but as the name of the title of the book suggests, it's the view from nowhere, the view from that there is no there in terms of its understanding, in terms of its situatedness. It's the view from wherever you are. Wherever you happen to stand, you'll see the same thing. So there's a kind of universalizing claim there. Other variants on that, Donna Haraway makes some good variants on that, and one or two of the feminist writers, Julia Kristeva and Sisu, and I think others, where they point out that quite often what's deployed as an entailment to shift the understanding of to shift the situatedness a little bit, is to kind of imply that the viewpoint is elevated. Because if we are elevated, if we are literally elevated in the world, if I'm sitting at the top of a tree, that's this tree here, then certainly I can see over things, I can see further, have a greater access to visual information than someone at ground level. So by extension, if I'm able to deploy a kind of elevated metaphor within this deployment of visuality as knowledge, then I can make kind of claims for objectivity. I can make claims that my viewpoint has greater access than someone else's viewpoint. It has more application. Donna Haraway calls this the God trick, the idea that God is in the sky and can see everything, is omniscient and omnipresent. So the view from nowhere in that sort of take of it becomes kind of the view from the top, or the view from everywhere, possibly. Yeah. So both of those are kind of solutions to a problem within the metaphor of visuality. Visuality is incredibly rich as a means of accessing information. So when we use visual metaphors, we mobilize that richness, but because visuality is also viewpointed, we have to find ways to get around that. And the two, or possibly three, key solutions to that problem of viewpointedness and visual information is Nagel's view from nowhere, Donna Haraway and others' elevated viewpoint, the God trick, and a possible variant on that, which is a kind of view from everywhere, the omniscient, all-seeing eye.